The use of AI in modern society is progressing at an overwhelming rate, especially within healthcare. AI has made its way into robotics used for surgical operations, pharmaceutical decision making, and many other administrative functions. While it offers a very promising potential for efficiency and effective analysis of medical operations in the future, in its current state, it poses significant risks to patient safety, threatens the protection of patient information, and creates many unresolved legal issues. With this being said, AI would benefit from increased regulations to limit the negative aspects that come with its use, while also allowing it to be used to improve healthcare under controlled standards and observation. Our first major argument centers on patient safety protections through restriction of AI use in clinical settings. According to Dr. Xiao Li Shentu's comprehensive review of legal issues in medical robots, there's a strong concern for legal outcomes relating to patients suffering physical harm after robot-assisted surgery, poor recovery outcomes, and or other adverse consequences, leading patients to claim for tort compensation. Shentu further notes that rigid structural designs and heavier system weights could potentially cause secondary injuries to patients during use. This evidence demonstrates that even with the regulated use of AI, where surgeries are AI assisted rather than AI controlled, the technology still poses a significant threat to patient safety. Additionally, Shentu explains that in situations of malpractice committed by AI assisted surgical robots, it is difficult to discern whether accidents stem from the original design flaws, manufacturing errors, or issues arising during operation. This creates a very critical accountability problem that undermines patient protection. Moving to diagnostic errors, Bernstein's and his colleagues conducted a critical study on AI systems and radiography interpretation. Their findings reveal that when AI systems are used to produce results in diagnostic imaging, they're likely to produce false results that negatively impact the interpretations of the results by medical imaging professionals. Most importantly, the results show that with the deletion of the AI produced results, radiologists can make the proper interpretations and provide the correct follow up decisions to their patients. Authors Hall and Futal provide similar concerns in their article Artificial Intelligence and Diagnostic Errors, noting that despite AI's intention of reducing diagnostic errors, one example of a potential error that can be created by the use of AI in diagnostic imaging is the discrepancies between the data used to train AI systems and the real world clinical scenario due to limited availability of high quality training data. They explain that the problem results from the lack of ability for the AI to recognize when to change based on the context of the situation, rather than to make decisions based on programmed assumptions. Before discussing specific hazards identified by leading organizations, it's critical to understand how the AI safety risks in healthcare are being formally assessed and prioritized. Independent safety organizations have conducted comprehensive evaluations of emerging health technologies and their potential to cause harm. These assessments provide crucial context for why immediate regulation is necessary. The most telling is the ECRI Institute's assessment. According to their 2025 report, the ECRI Institute's Top 10 Health Technology Hazards of 2025 places risks with AI enabled technologies at number one, citing the unsafe deployment, algorithmic bias, and insufficient oversight as leading threats. The ranking represents a specific statement from a leading patient safety organization. This institute, a non-profit research center that has been evaluating health technology for over 40 years, does not make such designations lightly. By placing AI-enabled systems at the top of their hazard list, ahead of all of their emerging technologies, they're signaling the healthcare industry faces an urgent crisis in AI governance. The specific concerns identified by ECRI are particularly instructive. Unsafe deployment refers to the implementation of the AI systems in clinical settings without adequate testing, validation, or safeguards. The algorithmic bias speaks to the well documented problem of AI systems trained on incomplete or skewed datasets that performed differently across different demographic groups. Insufficient oversight highlights the absence of meaningful human and regulatory control over the AI decision making process in patient care. When we consider these three elements together, the unsafe deployment, the algorithmic bias, and the insufficient oversight, see a clear picture of an industry moving faster than its governance structures can support. The fact that a leading patient safety organization ranks AI as the top health technology hazard is enough to determine that its current unregulated state is unacceptable. The evidence is clear. Patient harm from AI systems in healthcare is not a theoretical future problem, but is currently happening. From physical injuries caused by malfunctioning surgical robots to misdiagnoses resulting from flawed AI algorithms, the documented cases are mounting more and more as we get onto the future. The ECRI Institute's designation of AI as the number one health technology hazard confirms what researchers like Shintu, Bernstein, Hall, and Futal have already demonstrated, that we can no longer afford to treat AI in healthcare as an experiment. This is precisely why Law 1.01 is essential. This law will help restrict the harms related to AI assistants and surgical robots, diagnostic interpretation, and errors, and the treatment planning in relation to patients and patient outcomes. By creating these enforceable restrictions on high risk AI applications, this law will protect patients while still allowing AI to continue developing and lower risk administrative and support functions. The law ensures that human clinicians, not algorithms, maintain ultimate responsibility for patient care decisions. Until safety and validation frameworks mature and liability pathways become more clear, restrictions on the autonomous and semi autonomous AI systems are not obstacles to progress. Our second major argument focuses on preventing legal liability issues that are currently plaguing the healthcare AI intersection. Author Sestonaro and his colleagues conducted a comprehensive review examining multiple scientific journals related to liability and the use of AI algorithms in medicine. They highlight that over 23 cases of potentially significant issues caused by AI and the variety of liability concerns related to each specific case. These 23 documented cases represent a cross section of the liability failures we're already experiencing. In each instance, an AI system malfunctioned or produced a harmful outcome, yet the traditional legal frameworks designed to hold the healthcare actors accountable struggled to apply in this case. Some cases involved diagnostic AI that missed critical findings. Others involved algorithmic recommendations that led to inappropriate treatment decisions. In nearly every case, determining who was responsible, the developer, the vendor, the healthcare institution itself, or the clinician, became an exercise in legal ambiguity. What makes the situation even more critical is the complete absence of clear regulatory guidance. Most critically, Sestonaro et al. State that the regulatory framework on medical liability when AI is applied, therefore inadequate and requires urgent intervention. This isn't hyperbole or some sort of caution. This is a direct call to action from researchers who have systematically reviewed the state of AI liability law across the medical journals. The problem is the fundamental case. Our liability system was built for an era where healthcare decisions were made by identifiable human actors. When something went wrong, the legal system could trace the decision back to that individual and hold them accountable. But AI changes these calculus entirely. When an algorithm produces a recommendation that a physician follows, and that recommendation is wrong, the legal system struggles to understand the question of who decided. This gap is accountability. It is not merely a theoretical problem, it's an urgent practical crisis that demands legislative action. Patients injured by AI systems cannot bring cases because the liability framework doesn't yet accommodate the complexity of AI decision making. These healthcare providers cannot adequately protect themselves because they don't know what the standard of care applies when AI is involved. Michelle Mello and Neil Guha from Stanford University's Artificial Intelligence Research Institute provide additional insight into these liability gaps. Their research focuses specifically on how existing legal doctrines fail when applied to AI assisted healthcare decisions. One of their key findings is concerning. They state that the intangible and opaque nature of software and AI models poses significant challenges for holding software developers liable according to traditional rules governing product liability. Until tort doctrine evolves to address the impact of AI, plaintiffs may struggle to assert, let alone win, their legal claims. In practical terms, traditional product liability law assumes that if products, say, a surgical robot or image device, cause harm due to a defect, the manufacturer is liable. But AI systems present a unique problem. They operate through neural networks and algorithms that even their developers cannot fully explain or predict yet. When an AI system produces a wrong answer, it's not always clear whether that represents a defect in the software, flaw in the training data, or simply an inherent limitation of the technology that should have been caught through better oversight. Both authors, Mello and Guha, identify that to describe as the black box problem. AI systems make decisions through processes so complex that causation becomes difficult to establish. Did the harm result from the AI's design, from the data it was trained on, from the way that the healthcare provider implemented it, from the specific clinical context in which it was deployed? The traditional tort doctrine assumes you can trace a harm back to a specific defendant's specific action. With AI, that causal chain becomes almost impossible to establish. Furthermore, the current structure of liability doctrine assumes that someone, manufacturer, software company, or healthcare provider, bears responsibility for product safety. But the AI landscape involves multiple actors: the developers, the vendors, the healthcare institutions, and clinicians. Something goes wrong, each party can argue that they bore only a limited role. This creates what they call the litigation gap, a situation where injured patients cannot effectively bring legal cases because they cannot establish who should be held liable. As they explained, plaintiffs may struggle to assert, let alone win, their legal claims, because those traditional rules governing the product liability simply do not map on the reality of how AI systems actually function in healthcare today. The liability crisis we face is unprecedented. When a patient is harmed by these AI systems, the traditional mechanisms that would hold someone accountable, whether it's a physician's malpractice insurance, the liability coverage, or the tort doctrine itself, all begin to fail. Developers hide behind claims that they merely created a tool. Healthcare institutions claim they followed the vendor protocols, and the physicians may argue that the algorithm made the call. Meanwhile, the injured patient has no clear defendant and no pathway to compensation or justice. Law 1.01 directly addresses this chaos by establishing clear lines of accountability. The law will help eliminate confusion surrounding liability for errors made by AI by assuring that the accountability rests on those using the AI. By requiring clinicians to remain in control of patient-facing decisions and liable for those decisions, Law 1.01 creates a legal clarity that currently doesn't exist. Rather than allowing the healthcare institutions to hide behind the complexities of Law 1.01, this law makes it clear that the clinician and the healthcare provider are responsible for any decisions that affects the patient's care, regardless of whether an AI system was involved in formulating that decision. This doesn't mean AI can't be used. It means that AI cannot become a shield against that liability. If an institution deploys an AI system, the institution and its clinicians retain full responsibility for the outcome.